My fellow Polytopia players, welcome to Gimli's Forge. You may have heard the news, or if not, you'll have seen the thumbnail that yes, it is true, there are some major balance changes coming to the game. I'm referring to the beta, which has just come out on Steam, and the blog post published with it that I'll link to below. I'll let you pore over it in detail if you wish, but this is a strategy channel after all, so let's jump right into some gameplay so we can discover the changes as we go. Cymanti have had the greatest rework, so I've been testing them out and I'll show you some of the changes on the tech tree. So we now have the Reichi is still 8 stars, but it's been split into 2 units, so its explosion property has been taken and moved to a new unit, the Boomchi, which is now only 5 stars. So it's cheaper to go and plant algae outside your borders using one of these units. However, if you just want the normal attack and defense of the Reichi, I think those are the same stats. I'll need to check that. But that still costs 8 and you'll need to go via the ramming tech to get that. Then, no, this is not an Avalon. They're very insistent about that. They say, quote, any resemblance to units that were removed in the past are completely coincidental. Don't become attached to people. But that's quite clearly a reference to the Navalon, so for anyone who doesn't know, that was a unit that, when whales were in the game, Illyrian were able to enchant to become units of their own. Now they're actually on the tech tree for Cymanti, they've been Cymantiified. And Living Island, I don't know how much I like that name. I feel like there's something more Cymanti-esque that could be put in, like Navachi or something like that. But 20 stars, quite a tanky unit, so I found myself using it on the defense actually when I was testing some of these things out. And that's the biggest change. So I think this was Path of the Ocean stuff they were doing, and they felt like Cymanti needed to be changed, but you'll see some other things that are different. So, however you pronounce these, now built on land, and they act effectively like markets, but just for fungi, which have a key difference that they start on level 0. So if I'm to go and farm that, you'll see it's level 0 of 3, and you only get the population on the next turn. Also, if a unit steps onto it, they become poisoned as normal, but they decrease the level. So they can actually do some defensive self-poisoning. Most other things are the same. But let's take a look in a game of our own. Then one weird side effect of the new beta is that they're using a new backend for this. So the ELO rating has been set back to 1000, and I think the game version is up by 2. I'm pretty sure 112 is the current public version. I'm guessing so that's that people can't manipulate the ELO too much until the meta is settled. But you'll also see that, excitingly, a lot more names than there were when I looked at it before. Initially I saw there was just one name on here, but the high scores have been reset, so only 20 total. If I look at Cymanti, there are only 4 scores on here, including Midji1 himself. And let's see how high we can get in a new perfection game. I think I'm going to stick with 8 opponents. Normally I'd max this out for high scores, but because this is a new... In fact, maybe we'll even go low. I'll go for like 5. Just because this is a new tribe, I want to get set up early on so I can show you some of the new things that go on down here. Right, so fungi doesn't give it to me immediately, which means that you actually need to wait until turn 2 before you can upgrade your capital. Cymanti used to be the only tribe which could upgrade on turn 1. Now with the changes there are some others, so some of the weaker normal tribes such as Kiku now start with 7 stars, and that allows them to have 9 on turn 1, which allows you to upgrade with hunting, organisation, fishing, anything like that. I think I'm going to go for an explorer at the beginning, and interestingly this is a Fighty, I think is the name of them. And that is one of the major changes. One of the annoying things about Cymanti is they got units which could go on the water, but they never got any actual tech which allowed them to do so. This has changed now, so they do have access to water, and that means that the explorers themselves can go on water. Though I think the practicality is that you still need to get fishing if you want it to move on water, and you need sailing for it to move on deep water. So, like any other explorer would. The only reason that would be questioned is because the Fighty is an air troop, so you don't need either of these for your Fighty to go over the water. However, I think even though the artwork for the Explorer is a Fighty, that's still just treat it like you would any other normal warrior. Okay, we're getting one more out of this, so I can go ahead and take that now. I'd be on 9 next turn, which of course is enough to upgrade, so fantastic. We'll be contesting IMO, who now start with a Mindbender and Philosophy. So moving towards them, kill the Mooney, and Could go for organisation, but I really would like to show you some of the changes down the fishing route in an actual game, so going to do that. Can't afford any other units, so I'm going to go for a warrior and boost. Okay, there we go, we can take this city. I'll position myself next to the ruin, maybe have Imperius, but I think they just captured, so they shouldn't be too hot on my heels. Then we'll move so we can do a double boost afterwards, and see what's going on in this corner. Gosh, okay. Tempted to break the ice, but I also wonder if I can get to the lighthouse. Probably not. Okay, I think, yeah, we'll just do that. Next time we can step back. Even if we're on 2, we can break this ice, and they'd need another Mooney to come after us. Right, finally getting our second village. Currently in last spot. In terms of tech, riding is actually, they've been nerfed slightly. You'll see that the attack is now 2.5 rather than 3. I'm still going to go for them because I think they are, I'm assuming they're still pretty viable. 2.5 is not anything to be scoffed at. And of course when they get boosted that will go up by 0.523, so they'll be the same as any other. I'm going to leave myself on that, forgetting to boost before, but that's fine. I think what I'll actually do is move back so I have a better vantage point to be boosting from, and we'll collect the other spores. Okay, I might have archery, interesting. Let's take the ruin, we find free spirits, so on the way to shock tactics, though I haven't really found a use for the Dumux too much in the past. Maybe that will have changed with the update, we'll see if they seem more viable later. Get some more vision, okay. And I'm assuming a lot of this is going to be just normal perfection Cymanti stuff, so I'm going to speed forwards, but if I get to anything interesting or get to use any new text, then I'll pause and give you a chance to take a look. I think I just go for workshop here because chances are I'll just get the lighthouse, and I'm going to be getting that anyway because Imo's days are numbered. So here normally I could go for Algae and expand borders that way, but one of the changes is that Algae is now a terrain type, so I'd just be kind of like freezing terrain makes it ice, but other things can be on the ice such as an outpost. Then Algae I could place down, but it wouldn't give me a population immediately. Instead it would, if you read here, give me a fruit at the selected tile, so I'd also need organisation. So effectively 7 stars to get that population, but just 5 is normal if you want the tile type. That's the reason I'm not going for it immediately. Getting ourselves our first centipede, turn 10, so probably just because of the way I've been playing it, but a lot less than normal. Like a turn 5 centipede isn't completely unheard of. Possible to get them even earlier, so perhaps that's just I haven't been playing things perfectly, but I think also certainly a nerf to the tribe as a whole, definitely fungi stopping them getting developed early on. So I'm pretty sure I just saw the 5G Explorer missing out on the deep water because I don't actually have sailing yet. So I think they ignore the fact that it is a unit that goes on air, just treat it like a normal Explorer. Then interestingly you would notice that this can actually move to these 2 tiles which are on land. If I were to move either of these guys as well, that worked as I hoped. The 4 HP threw himself into me and gave me the veteran. Then I'm pretty sure if I moved this guy out the way, which I probably will, then can also move here. And that's because these naval units now have the crawl ability, so they have a movement of 1 when they're on land, which means you can move a Raichi through land, just it does so very slowly. But say there's a tiny land bridge, then you can actually get it through, which is useful. So no longer will your Raichi be trapped in a lake. Okay, some pretty decent mines. And what I'm going to do is move outside my borders and then... Oh, it's grayed... It's weird, it's grayed out as though there's no ability, but I hope... Yeah, I can still do that. Okay, confusingly. And noticing that there's spores on the tile, because it is a tile type as opposed to something being on the tile in the way fruit is. And spawns, because that was a dead unit, that was my Boomchi that exploded to create that. Okay, let's explode so we can move further. Between them, they can take out the defender, but I think I'll save it and go for the capital instead. Plenty of upgrading options. So creating our first algae by not exploding, and that gives us fruit on top. Okay, shock tactics are interesting. Maybe we'll go and use that now that we have the tech. 4 and 8, I'll need to use all 3 units. Let's sacrifice the Hexpod first. Right, here it would be nice if we had another path, so what I don't want to do is provide too many paths for the enemy, but I feel like that's not jeopardizing me too much. Also, really interesting that there's bananas. I would have assumed that it was just always a Cymanti fruit. I guess that suggests that the terrain actually extends into the water, because if it were just that the terrain was based on the land, then you'd expect everything to be Cymanti. That's kind of what I assumed, but it gives us an insight into how the game is made. So this is actually all Kiku terrain, and so this includes the water, whereas this is all Cymanti terrain, and so the fruit itself is the colour of that. Okay, interestingly that I can't move here. I'm guessing it's a zone of control, so maybe creating that new tile didn't actually help me. So a spot will be taken up by the segment, however, they still can't get through. What we can do though is get to this ship, the scouts. There we go, Dumak's actually working perfectly in that case. We'll head the other towards the actually not worth it, because yeah, we were going to get it anyway for taking that city, but doesn't hurt too much. There's nothing under here, so I can explode and then I'll have spores, which probably go ahead and collect, but I'll wait and see what we're doing star-wise for this turn. Place our segment here, then move to safety. Other might as well have a hit. Put something bulky defense. Actually, how well do Boomchi's 2 defense? Okay, so kind of effectively just like a warrior. Nothing special. Then Algae down. Move towards the village. Is that Imperius' final city? It is, so they'll lose their raft and the defenders by me in the process. I'm still going to get a super unit here because we've got 13 turns to get it forward, but I'm thinking about how we get perfection going, so it's probably going to be taking parks in these cities at the back now. Okay, so war is still unable to go into ports, which is to be expected, but just interesting that they give us movement on the water, but so you know that doesn't apply to ports as per usual. Now this is exactly the point in the game where a living island would be perfect, because I can't remember if I explained it earlier, but every time they move then they spawn algae behind it, so you can effectively create a chain just like with a Mooney, where algae is just completely poured in their wake. Now I've held off because it hasn't really benefited me too much. I had an option earlier when it was 16 stars and I could have got 2 starfish, but if I can afford it I may go for that just to show you what it can do, and I don't think I even played it in the other game when I was testing out features, so pretty interested in seeing what happens when you do that. Also, you'll notice that this got to an insanely high level, and that's because you actually get 2... Oh, I've misunderstood this. Okay, I still got 6 population, but I thought it said 1 population per mine. Produces 1 population for each nearby mine. Huh. Okay, well that's not how I read it before, because that has given me 6 population. I thought that their intention was to make it just 3, but you get 6 levels, and therefore it works for markets better. I'm going to read this again. Forges now grow 2 levels, 1 pot per level, per mine, instead of giving 2 pot per mine and 1 level. Huh. Okay, so that's actually a bonus to mines. And forges. I thought forges were nerfed, but actually 2 levels, 1 population per level, so still 2 population, and that is what's happened. Okay, that's interesting. I don't see what the need was to boost mines even more, but basically hasn't changed. But interesting to see that in action, because that's not how I'd understood it. Okay, for the fun of it, I'm really tempted to get navigation here. I don't think it benefits me in getting a top score, but would be pretty interesting. I think we'll be responsible and get meditation, go for getting all of the techs at a reduced price. Probably can't pull this off before turn 25, that is when you'd be able to get pacifist at the end, but we'll see. Just 1 tribe to get, so not completely out of the question. Spores absolutely everywhere. Right, we could get spores galore by exploding all of this. Oof, okay, messed up here again and lost my shaman. We have the interesting case where we have a segment connection going over 2 tiles. I've seen that before, but it is rare. And that shuffles along when we move. I assume algae still slows ships down, so should benefit us for doing that. That must be the capital we're seeing in the corner. Okay, I've got 4 turns if I want to get my pacifist monument. And what score are we looking at to beat? 165 is totally unachievable, but 24 shouldn't be too hard, and really careful that I don't press start game. 222. So 24, pretty much 10k we're trying to do. Oh, easily already surpassed that. Okay, we're fine. Oh gosh, okay, I've completely forgotten about getting this though. 3 can give us... No, we're not going to be able to manage that, are we? Are we able to put a forge on water? No, okay. I might need to wait for later to get that back actually. That's a misplay on my part. Alright, that's destroyed our connection, which is annoying. And healed them. Very annoying. Absolutely insane value here. That's 3 already. We'll get another centipede. 4. Maybe is one of these already maxed? Yeah, that explains it. What I could do actually is wait a turn in capturing and take this one instead. So, oh actually no, am I going to be able to get through with... Probably not, they don't have creep, do they? Ah, okay, I should be okay, right. I'm going to give up this city for now, put spores down, sacrifice this unit, and the other can take the capital. We'll explode the segments, again giving us the reach of 2, and can go in and do a double capture next time. That's not a bad place to explode. So, not going to be able to get these fruit at all, because as soon as you kill, the spores will go down. Okay, I don't really want this blocking me, so I am going to explode. Right, triple capture, but I'm not doing a very good job of defense here. Absolutely insane spores from our fungi, rather. Okay, they moved off, so we do actually get the fruit. We'll take philosophy, so everything's cheaper. Then triple capture, let's go for forestry, it's been long enough. What am I doing? Okay, it's fine, we can pull this together. Take, perfect. Explode, and then take. Right, easy reclaim, but we'll bounce off and put a warrior there instead. And then hexapods can do damage on the swordsman. I really don't know what I was doing on my defense there. I was thinking too much about how I take out Bardor and less about my attempts to keep what I thought were safe villages. Oh gosh, and lost this as well. Okay, what we're going to do is place our monument along with... If we put Algae on a port, presumably it doesn't give us... No, it doesn't, okay. Still get a connection though up here. There's that. Doesn't seem like it's given it to us. Oh, because we've lost this. Okay, definitely have to give up on Pacifist. We will get this back next turn. Unless we expand borders, actually, we could do that. So, what about Temple? I've got expand borders, and then here we can put a forge. There we go, that's the missing piece. And get Algae from the others. Anything else clever we can do? Don't have enough for mathematics. But 7 apiece, pretty expensive Algae. Gives us a centipede to pop off. Phew. Okay, before the triple capture, we'll go for mathematics, navigation, and probably spend the rest on upgrading. Put a forge on the mountain. Is that new? Forge is now buildable on forests and mountains as well. Wow, really interesting stuff there. Probably want to get recycling and move it because that's not an ideal spot to have it, but even so, it's fine for now. And having a monument is not worth taking this final city and dealing with Galore, so we will finish the job. Getting a couple Bonchi to go and pick up these starfish that I left earlier. Now what the centipedes can do is just try and, actually probably just disband, but could trail spores over anywhere, so I'm going to try and, yeah, just plant them somewhere useful for that. Right, we can place forges on forests, but I see no point in not chopping first. Actually a better way to get the starfish cheaply. Right, we're decomposing this, so we will need to get the population up so we don't get a much lower income next turn. Better not to upgrade, because even if we did upgrade, then we get -4 stars per turn, like lower than what you would have got. So here we get 9. I think if I went one higher, I'd go up to 11 because I'd take a park, but then I'd actually go down to 7, so better not to do that. There we go, went down by 4 as expected, but we can get a better mine here. Got ourselves wealth. So 4 immediately back plus 2 from that. I think the best use of stars is to move to somewhere empty so the segment can explode on it, and then you can disband the head for 5 stars. Oh gosh, I've completely forgot about these, the Clathrus, which gives you stars per turn for all of the fungi next to it. I'd forgotten, I've been thinking that was still the same as normal, so I could have got a massive income from that. Still cost 8, I get plus 3, so nowhere where that would actually benefit me, but that should have been something I was paying attention to. When you play your own games, then they will be really key. Right, not a perfect game at all, but that should be enough to top the leaderboards. With the over 200% bonus, we go up to 64. So, easily puts us at the top of the Cymanti leaderboards, however, only 6th on the all-time out of 23 now. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing these changes in action, and hopefully you've learned something by watching me play through my perfection game. Check out my other videos if you want to see more Polytopia strategy content, and subscribe to learn the latest. This has been Gimli's Forge, and I'll see you in the next one.